What's up guys, James here, how you doing? So this is a response to Answers in Books. He did a video recently called So You're Having Sex with Animals, and he asked what his subscribers' views were on the topic of bestiality. Now, I wasn't aware of the Zoosexuality channel, which he mentioned in his video before today, so I'm not sure whether or not they're a troll or not, but I have had run-ins with Dogs Need Pleasure 2 before, and I'm pretty convinced that he is not a troll or a po. He is completely genuine in the opinions which he expresses. Now, the only problem I really have with Dogs Need Pleasure 2 presenting his opinions, which for the record I do disagree with, is that he posts comments on videos which are completely unrelated. So there'll be a video about homosexual rights, for example, and the comment section will get completely overtaken with him talking about how people who have sex with animals deserve rights too, and other people arguing with him, and the video just ends up going completely off topic. Now, I do think that you made a mistake pretty early on in your videos, Answers in Books. You say that zoosexuality is bestiality, which is not strictly the case. Zoosexuality is the sexual attraction to animals, whereas bestiality is actually the action itself, and the two are not necessarily synonymous. Someone could, for example, have sex with an animal whilst they themselves not being a zoosexual for a number of different reasons, and someone could be a zoosexual and never actually act on those feelings. So, I'm against bestiality, but I'm not against zoosexuality for reasons which I will get into later on in this video. But first of all, I do have some pretty big disagreements with most of the other people who are against bestiality. It seems that all too often recently I seem to be policing my own side, and I'm getting a lot of shit for it. But I do this for two reasons. Firstly, I find intellectual honesty to be extremely important. And secondly, presenting clearly flawed arguments is more likely to get people to side the opposite way to which you intend. It seems recently the situation's almost like this. Hitler used to have sex with dogs whilst dressed as a sailor. What the fuck are you on about? No, he didn't. You're supporting Hitler, you must be a Nazi. What? No, all I'm saying is that he didn't have sex with dogs whilst dressed as a sailor. That doesn't mean I'm supporting the Nazi party. Nazi, Nazi, Nazi! Okay, so bearing in mind that that is the situation, this doesn't mean that I'm supporting bestiality, but merely that there's certain things which I disagree with, which some of the other antis are doing. Oh, and by the way, you like the hat? If you do, I think I might make this a thing which I do in my videos from now on. Humans are the only animal which has sex for pleasure. All animals do is have sex solely for reproduction. Now, I think that this is one of the most ludicrous arguments I've ever heard in my fucking life. I think that certainly animals do have sex for pleasure, and quite the opposite to what they're saying, I think that humans are probably one of the very few animals which have sex whilst thinking about reproduction. So yeah, I think that animals have sex because it's pleasurable for them, because it makes sense for them to have evolved to actually enjoy having sex, and I think that this argument is just pulled completely out of their fucking asses. For a start, every female mammal at least has a clitoris, and every single one tested has been able to experience an orgasm whilst in laboratory conditions. The clitoris evolved solely for the purpose of sexual pleasure. Now, if you're to actually hold this position, that animals don't have sex for pleasure, then you have to really be denying that animals experience pleasure, that animals have emotions, and, you know, if you're denying that they have pleasure, you have to really deny that they experience pain as well. So, if this argument was true, if anything, it would actually justify bestiality. It's just disgusting. Now, this is a complete non-argument as far as I'm concerned. People can be disgusted with homosexuality, people could be disgusted with having sex with someone who's obese, with someone who's anorexic, having sex with someone of another race. Someone can find licorice disgusting, someone can find carrots disgusting. Someone's personal disgust at something doesn't make something morally right or wrong. The biology of animal sexual cycles is completely different to that of human reproductive biology. It just doesn't correspond. Now, this was one of the highest rated comments in Answers in Books video, which I find really quite worrying because that argument wouldn't hold if it was used in the context of, say, homosexuality, for example. So, of course, two men can't have babies together because biologically they don't fit in that way. But that's not a moral argument against homosexuality, and this is not a valid argument in this context. And also, of course, there's great apes and many monkeys which have very, very similar sexual cycles to us, but that doesn't mean having sex with monkeys and other great apes is a morally correct thing to do. No animal would enjoy having sex with a human, and they can't give consent. Now, there certainly are animals which would enjoy having sex with humans, and I'm willing to grant that possibly some animals are able to consent via body language and that kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure how that would work, but I'm willing to grant that that's the case, that may well be the case. However, I really don't think that that would classify as informed consent. Now, of course, it's also illegal to have sex with children or severely mentally retarded people in many places. Mainly because there's a severe difference in mental and emotional ability between the two parties, and it leaves the situation wide open for abuse. There was a case which I heard about of a married woman in her 30s who started having sex with a 14-year-old boy. And when she basically told him that she wasn't going to leave her husband, the boy tried to hang himself. Now, had the boy have been 18, he should have been mentally developed enough to realise that the woman was lying when she said she was going to leave her husband, and he'd have been emotionally developed enough to be able to handle the inevitable situation when it happened. With him being very, very young and naive and not being able to handle those emotions, of course the situation was extremely harmful for him. But of course he was still very much able to experience sexual pleasure, and the same thing could certainly be the case with mentally handicapped people. Now, of course, it's possible for someone who's in their 30s to be in a completely responsible, non-abusive, non-controlling relationship with someone who's, say, 13, 14, 15, for example, but because of the severe difference in emotional maturity, the possibility for abuse is just far too open, so we need to draw the line in the sand somewhere, and when it comes to having sex with animals, that line has to be fucking drawn. So the second reason I see to be against bestiality is that when it comes to consent, humans have the ability to show informed consent to a third party. A dog, for example, can't just go to the police and say that it had been raped. So, for that reason, I think that's another very good reason for it to remain illegal. And final point, this kind of goes back to the whole ownership thing a little bit. When I last commented to Dogs Need Pleasure Too, which was absolutely ages ago, I remember him referring to his dog as his boyfriend. However, he's also the owner. So if they split up, are they going to just stay in the house together? If the dog sees him having sex with somebody else, what's going to happen there? If the dog has sex with somebody else, are you going to kick him out of the house? Now, when I asked those sort of questions to him, he was saying, well, don't be silly, you can't equate that because the dog isn't developed as a person. But he can't have it both ways. I know, that's why I was making those arguments, because he cannot have it both. He cannot have it both ways. Either the dog is capable of the same level of thought as a person when it comes to issues such as sex and consent, in which case those questions are perfectly valid, or those questions aren't valid because the dog isn't emotionally able to show informed consent. So I think that points out a clear level of hypocrisy in his in his worldview. So yeah, those are my reasons why I am very much against bestiality. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment, rate, subscribe, and I shall see you soon. Bye.